What's up, gamers? It's your boy SneakJester coming up with an epic Maiev guide. You wanna learn how to play like that? This is what you do. So here we are. Maiev's abilities, let's go. Her first ability is pretty much also her bread and butter. This is what makes your team fights good or bad. And that is the Q. Q is just a basic skill shot AoE damage, but as you can see it has a crescent shape to it. So hitting multiple people is definitely intended with this one. Especially if you read the tooltip, of course it deals some enemies, but then hitting at least 2 heroes with Fan of Knives reduces its cooldown to 0.5 seconds. And also refunds its mana, which is also nice. So that means if I just hit this boss, for example, it still has a 4-second cooldown. Quite short still, but of course 0.5 seconds pretty much insta-spams if you keep hitting it. So make sure to try and always hit multiple people. As you saw that, I missed, and basically 4 seconds of nothing. Very basic, but very seriously hard to master. Then, onto her next ability, the Umbral Bind on W. This is an activatable ability, which makes your next auto attack, so I just activated it, chain people towards your tether. Now, after chaining them, they are in this radius around you, I'll show you, and if you move out of it, they get pulled towards Maiev. Which means it doesn't necessarily pull, but if the enemies are moving away from you, or for example, if you teleport yourself out of it, they will get pulled. Basically, just try and break the tether, because binding them itself does a little bit of damage, but pulling them away is what does the most burst damage. Then onto Maiev's last basic ability, her Spirit of Vengeance. She throws out a shade outward, which goes back inwards, and in the meantime damages every enemy in its path. Every enemy meaning every structure, every minion, every hero, every mercenary, whatsoever, they all get damaged by it. Now the best thing about it is that you can reactivate it at any time you'd like during its travel to teleport back to that location. Very handy. And for Maiev's trait we have the Vault of the Warden's active ability. Arguably the best trait in the game. It makes you vault up in the air, basically do a backflip, and mitigate all damage and CC for 0.5 seconds. So it's basically, you can see it as like an invulnerability frame. Now, don't get this actually confused with invulnerability, because it's unlike a, for example, Divine Shield from Uther, which makes you completely invulnerable, but during the Vault of the Wardens you can still get targeted, and I'll explain some mechanics about that later. So at this point in the video I want to point out I'm a bit of an idiot, and I'm recording this guide in October 2020, which means every character in the game has this Gladiator's Medallion active ability. Normally you wouldn't have this, but during this Nexus anomaly we all spawn with a Gladiator's Medallion. So don't mind this active button please for the rest of the guide. And a little bit of a cheeky jump cut to this next section, but let's get started with the basics of playing Maiev. Now the most important thing you need to remember about Maiev is that she does a lot of auto attack damage right from the very start of the game. We're level 1 right now, and we're hitting over 150 damage per auto attack. So maximizing her damage is really all about weaving in as many auto attacks as you can. For example, if I were to probably engage this target dummy right here, a lot of people, what they do is they come walking in with Maiev, they try and hit a Q to do some damage, start hitting, I don't know, maybe try and chain them, and something like that. That was 1033 DPS in total. Damage per second, not so much, 175. Now already weaving in auto attacks makes a huge difference. So for example, if I start hitting this target and hit Q, hit W, hit. That's a lot more damage, and I didn't even pull the target this time. And remember, the pull of the Umbral Bind actually does most of the damage. So what you can do is try and figure out how these abilities work together. One of the best things about this Umbral Bind ability, it resets your auto attack. So try and make sure if you engage a target, for example, you come out of range, there's a little bit of a sneaky move, bam bam shiggity wham, hit W, Q, hit E, hit and pull. For example, 375 damage per second right there. That makes such a big difference. It's literally doubling your DPS just by doing the right order and the right timing on your abilities. Basic 101. If you master this, you're already better than probably 80 or 90% of most random Maievs you see in Quick Match, and probably about 50% in Hero League, Storm League, whatever it's called nowadays. Good luck. Try and figure this out first, then come back to the video, and then we'll get back to some more advanced tactics. And here you can see a random picture of Maiev. Enjoy! So, in this next clip, I'm going to show you a little bit of an example on why you should wait on hitting your Q. As you can see here, we going in, I think there's 3 top, and fortunately there's 3 bots. Here you can see bam, Q, waiting, bam, Q, wait, Q, and last Q. Unfortunately missed because the Mephisto shaded away. But this is a perfect example of waiting to make sure you hit. Now, just to flex on you guys a little bit, and also to stroke my own ego, I'll show you some cooler examples of using patience to reset your Q at the appropriate time to secure the kills.
You're like 3v gazillioning. I want nothing to heal you at the moment, but if you can get that what man?
Got her.
Okay, let's kill him.
Oh, get wrecked, Lunara! And you too, Tassadar. Alright, and one cheeky jump cut later after these weird flexes of mine. Let's talk about the Umbral Bind ability. Now, I already told you that the Umbral Bind is in this Pac-Man shape in front of you, but of course it changed from your auto attacks. And your auto attacks don't reach that far, obviously. So if I wanted to hit, let's see if I can show this here somewhere. If I wanted to hit this target with my chain, this middle one, I would have to walk up to him and chain him from here. Of course, what I can also do is, because the range is quite large, and I'll have to stand a bit close here. Now he's in range, and if I just do my W on this guy, I pull him in. Now, of course, these guys count as heroes, but now comes the fun part. Let's talk about minions. Of course, you can't Umbral Bind minions because they're not enemy heroes. But what you can do, and let me even show you on a stealthed hero, you can, of course, chain to a minion with your auto attack, and if there's a target, an enemy hero behind that, even a stealthed one, you can chain them out of stealth. Okay, well, I think she just unstealthed, but it doesn't matter.
An excellent strike.
Even though she wasn't stealthed at that point, trust me, you can hit enemy stealthed heroes by hitting them as a secondary target from your W. And, oh, okay, well, that's enough. Oh, let me get this Nova out of here. Actually, no, never mind. Nova, no, misclicked. Ah! So the next point I was going to talk about is the secondary targets. And now I actually do want to make sure the enemy's gone and the minions are gone. Of course, Maiev has some really cool talents, and one talent I use all the time is Bonds of Justice. And of course I'll talk about more in depth about the talents later, but a mechanic that comes with stacking your Umbral Bind means you have to hit heroes as a secondary target on Umbral Bind. So either you hit 2 or more heroes in one bind, and you can do that like this, of course. See? But that only gave me 1 stack. So if I wanted to get more stacks, and let's pretend this guy over here is a minion, what I can do is, if there's 2 heroes and a minion wave here, I can just chain the minion to get both the hero tethers and get 2 stacks, instead of hitting only 2 heroes and getting 1 stack. Very important. And of course, the increase in range from your auto attack is huge. So try to make sure, especially if you use the stacking talent on 1, to make use of the secondary tethers. Use all the range you have on this ability. So, you know, getting into fights is fun and all, but you know what is even more fun? Getting out of team fights. Well, losing team fights, that is, and getting out alive especially. So, one thing you can do is use your E wisely. For example, if I'm over here being chased by 3 people. Of course, from here, there's 2 ways to safety in normal games. Let's pretend this is the top lane. I either go to my gates over here, or I go to the gates which would be the middle path on this map. Of course, this is only a 1 lane map, but you can pretend. I trust you. You know what to do. So one thing to do if you're getting chased, use your E one way and walk a different way. If they try and catch up to you here, you just teleport here and you're safe. Or the other way around. If they chase your specter or your spirit, you just don't teleport at all and just keep moving. It's that simple, guys. Nothing more to say. You can figure it out on your own, I think. Alright, there is one more ability I want to talk about before we get into the Waka Waka Cool Maiev combos. And that is her trait. Now, let's see if we can bait this. Look. What? Oh, the AI is very smart. Okay, so that was funny. Now, what you saw there is Ragnaros used his Sulfurish, or Empower Sulfurish, or whatever it's called. He basically augmented his auto attack with his W. You saw his hammer go up into flames. What you can do, and that is in contrast to Uther's Divine Shield, you can still be targeted by abilities like that. So if you see a Ragnaros coming your way and you know you're quite safe, you don't need to save your trait for like potential ganks or something, you can actually time your trait so that Ragnaros will use his Sulfurish hammer on you and completely dodging it, not getting hit, and also getting his ability on cooldown. And of course that works really well with something like an Uther stun, Ragnaros W, or for example a Maiev if you were to play against a mirror. You know, anything that basically telegraphs a certain move. Especially auto attacks are easy to see coming. So make sure to not only use your trait defensively, you can also use it a little bit offensively like this to get certain cooldowns out of your enemies. I'll show you a cool example on Imperius and Valera that works really well. Alright, so because I'm an idiot, I deleted the recording, but let's get back to the replay. Yep, here it is. I see the Valera coming on the left, and I will bait her ability out. And here again, about 15 seconds later, let's check it out. So as you can see, there's a lot of instances where you can use the trait, and especially on something like a Valera, baiting out abilities is kind of huge, because now she doesn't have stealth, she doesn't have abilities, she used all her burst on nothing, basically, and I still have everything left. Now, on something like a Valera, the timing is pretty tricky, and, you know, it's kind of more of an anticipation game, but this is just to show you some examples that, in some cases, Maiev's trait is better than Divine Shield because you can actually make enemies use their cooldowns. So, yay for that. Alright, let's get to the combos to actually make you win the games. Now, most players that go Maiev, they want to go for their W stacks, and I agree, W stacks is a lot of fun, but when they do, most of them, their engagements would look something like this. Walk in, E backwards, trade to avoid CC, and chain them, maybe hit a Q in there, like a little cheeky Q I did at the end, sure, why not? Now, I would not recommend playing Maiev in that style, because there's two main drawbacks to them. First of all, at the point where you hit your W on them, your shade is already running quite low. It's almost running out. So you don't have a whole lot of time to actually do damage once you're up in their faces. And Maiev is good when she is up in people's faces, especially clumped people. And the other drawback, especially with this style, you have to use your traits to get to them, because you are walking towards them. Remember, you eat backwards, so that means you don't have your mount. And that is kind of huge, because mostly, especially in higher level games, people will see you coming from a mile away, and you already eat backwards, so you have no gap closes whatsoever. You have to walk up to them. And of course, if it's a very hectic team fight, yeah, you can do it. Maybe they don't see you coming, maybe you surprise them from a bush, but it's not that great. What you can do instead is stay mounted, of course, stay in the shadows, preferably a bush, or come from a flank where they don't expect you, but keep mounted, auto attack W, Q if you can, and you see I had time for 3 more auto attacks and at least 2 Qs. So let me show you that once more for style. You engage from an angle, or at least you engage mounted, auto attack W, Q, E backwards, Q, auto attack and back. Of course, weaving in these auto attacks, like I said, you have to practice that a little bit, because you need to know the timing of the intervals between hits. But you don't have to hit 3 times in between. Most of the time you won't be able to. But at least you can auto attack W, get a lot more damage in than if you were to E backwards first. Now, of course, even in lower levels, there's still a lot of cases where you won't be able to walk up with your mount towards them. So instead, there's another combo you can do, and that is just to E in first, then auto attack W, and on the way back, keep moving. Of course, this has a little bit, well, it's more aggressive, so it's more dangerous, right? But honestly, the damage potential is the same, but in this case, you have to make sure to activate the pull from the tethers manually by walking away. You can't teleport out of it this time. And that's the hard part here, especially if you still want to keep hitting your Qs. So combo-wise, I showed you 3 ways of engaging, and let's go through each of them one more time, and you can figure out on your own which you prefer the most. Walk up to them, E backwards, walk, trade, WQ, hit, and pull. Something like that. That was a lot of damage per second, but in a very short amount of time. So the total damage was actually only, what was it, 10k? Then the other one was, oh, let me get my cooldowns back. The other one was the walking up from a bush, or like the gank, or whatever you want to call it. Auto attack W, E backwards, W hit, and that. Okay, so that was 15,000 damage. A lot more, you'd say. And of course, there's the last opportunity, and probably the one that is going to be used most. E-ing it offensively, auto attack W, and oh, I almost forgot to walk backwards, but this is still 12,000 damage. Let me try that one more time. I can do that better, I think. But you can see that was still more damage than the first way, and I pretty much forgot what I was doing halfway through. So let's do that one more time. E-ing in, auto attack W, walking backwards, and okay, I actually hit one more target there, but whatever. About 12 to 14k, somewhere in between there. Remember, those 3 ways are probably your 3 main ways to combo people down. Let's talk about the last part of this video, basically. The builds and the playstyles. So there's 2 main builds with Maiev right now, and of course I've been talking about this earlier, so let's start with the, in my opinion, most fun one. The single target blow up, or blow up a whole team with cruel chains build. So stacks on W, and on level 1 talent, of course, you go for Bonds of Justice. Each secondary tether gives you a stack, and after tethering 5 people as a secondary target, you do a bit more pull damage, so actually breaking the tether, pulling them into you. And on level 10 you complete the quest, And then the cleave damage itself actually gets increased by 30%, which is quite a lot actually. So very nice to get early on. And if your team is getting snowballed, it's really hard to get to 10 stacks. But, you know, happens to every character every now and then. So, Bonds of Justice for the burst build.
Choose a talent.
Then on level 4, there's only one talent actually, Blade Dance. And I'll tell you why. Pin Down is just a quest that ups the damage on your Q, but honestly, Blade Dance already ups the damage on your Q. So completing this quest, yeah, if you complete it and you do hit a lot of Qs, eventually it will give you more damage. But honestly, the difference is not even that big between them. And remember, this is a pretty tough quest to complete. So Blade Dance all the way, basically. Just beside the points of damage, because you can see Blade Dance, what does it do? It basically, when you Q, you do about, well, 110 on level 20 physical damage around you in AoE. So even if I miss my Q here, I still hit 110 damage to these guys. Of course, that is not even the good part, but the main good part is it counts as 2 separate hits if you hit your Q and your Blade Dance on the same target. And why does that matter, that it's 2 hits? Well, that has to do with the level 16. So if we take a look at the level 16, Cruel Chain, and then your W, Umbral Bind, the movement speed, okay, but you get movement speed after binding people. But the most important part, each time you do damage to a tethered target, your pool damage gets increased by a lot. Now, this used to be more, and the talent did get nerfed. It's still very good though. If you stack and you hit 5 abilities on your targets, it still does a metric ton of burst damage. Still good. So what is good about Blade Dance? With this talent, you see once you start binding, there's orbs above your head for how many times you've hit the target with your abilities. So if I were to show you here, pull E in, that's... Okay, so I hit him 3 times there. I kept auto-attacking and I used an E. That was only 3 stacks. You need 5 for the maximum potential of damage. So how do you get to 5? Well, in between weaving your auto attacks, you only have to hit 1 Q basically. So W, Q, E, and now I have 5 and even time to get out with my E. And that is because Fan of Knife with the Blade Dance gives 2 of those orbs above your head. That's huge. That's 60% more damage on your Umbral Bind. Very nice. Also, it helps clear camps faster. It's level 4 talent, so getting camps at level 4 is a lot easier with Blade Dance. Alright, let's go back a little bit. Reset the talents. Honestly, that's all I have to say for now about the Umbral Bind build. Otherwise, this video is going to take ages, and honestly, that's I already explained the playstyle for that kind of build. Now, there's, in my opinion, one more other viable build. Of course, there is something to be said about other ones, but the 2 main builds are the Pool, the Umbral Bind, Cruel Chains, and Neisha's Memento. Neisha's Memento this is more of a physical build, so with this one you'll try and be more of an auto attacker. Neisha's Memento is an activatable ability, and if you activate it, all your auto attacks will bounce 2 times towards the nearest enemies. I don't think it necessarily prioritizes heroes. Nope. But remember the auto attacks of Maiev do a lot of damage, so getting them to bounce is very, very good. Now, how do you reset this? You saw me do it. You see, you get full damage on each bounce, but I just wanted to be on cooldown. You reset it by hitting 2 or more targets at once with your Q. Oh, well, not like that. So, as long as you're able to hit multiple targets with 1 Q, basically a reset, you'll get it back. And some games you'll have it permanently. In other games, you can struggle to even get it back once. There's some instances where it's really hard. For example, against Genji, Tracer, Nova, you know, something 5 Assassin games or something. Why would you pick Neisha's Memento? Well, I'm gonna show you here. Bouncing attacks on a bruiser camp is really good. And the camp clear time is drastically less than without that talent. Of course, it is level 20 now, so basically any character by this point can do it. But I just took that camp in, what was it, 15 seconds? Not a whole lot of time. It's also good for the siege giants, of course. Remember, it bounces 2 times, but oh, well, that was a bit stupid. It only bounces 2 times, and unfortunately, even if, oh wait, unfortunately, I mean, even if you only have 2 targets, it will still bounce 2 times. So it will go back and forth to the same target if there's no more targets nearby. So your potential is never wasted with Tenacious Memento. Now, what complements the physical build? Same talents as earlier. Blade Dance again, and especially here Blade Dance is even more important because it does 110 physical damage to enemies around Maiev. And why do you want to do physical damage?
Choose
well,
a talent. Choose a talent.
let me explain.
Choose a talent. Choose
Here,
a talent.
Armored Assault at level 16. While Maiev has positive armor of any kind, all physical damage dealt is increased by 20%. So that's huge. You only have to hit like targets with your physical attacks and you'll always crit. And remember, with Tenacious Memento, the auto attacks will keep critting. Yeah, that's Armored Assault. And then at the level 20, I haven't showed you the level 20 for the other build, but I will. For the melee assassin build, there's honestly only one choice. Shadow Orb Huntress increases your movement speed and attack speed. Super good. If you activate all your... I'm just gonna auto attack. That's a lot of damage. And you reset this one by just dealing physical damage to enemies. So Blade Dance will actually help you reset it. Now, physical damage also counts from your Tenacious Memento bounces. So yeah, with this build you have a lot of active abilities to spam, especially in clump team fights. You can use it non-stop. Great build, a lot of potential. Not so good versus people with attack speed slows or blinds, for example. And honestly, this is, I can't really explain the playstyle here. Just get a lot of camps for your team with Tenacious Memento, and in team fights, just like Illidan, you gotta pick your fights wisely, you know? There's not much to be said about it in this guide. So let's backtrack one more time to the other build, and I will show you the level 20 on that build with an example for its use. Shadow Orb Shadow Strike is level 20. It's an activatable ability. It's basically a debuff on an enemy. It makes them move slower by 30%, quite a hefty slow, and it reduces their armor by 20%. Really good for just getting a kill in a single target or killing stranglers that are left behind, you know? So activate it. Of course, I didn't do the correct way of comboing here, but it's just a debuff on the enemies. Now, how do you reset this? You have to hit spell damage 10 times. There we go. There is one more level 20 that's also really good. Shadow Orb Vengeance. And this basically is an activatable ability to reset your E ability. And now that we're busy showing the talents, let's do that anyways.
Choose a talent. Choose a talent.
I missed that one, but it doesn't matter. Shadow Orb Vengeance. Now this one is very good for getting out of hairy situations, of course. For example, I misjudged my engaged. Oh damn, I need to get out, activate, and run. Also helps for stacking your level 16 faster if you need to. Unfortunately, the way you have to recharge this one is to hit people with your Spirit of Vengeance. And I'm not gonna lie, after level 20, because of course this is a Storm tier talent, you won't have that much opportunity to literally use your only escape in as many people as you can. Of course, here I can hit 3 people, but in most games, when you're about to team fight, there's definitely at least, well, this much space in between. So at some points you can maybe hit 2 targets, maybe even one on the way back. But honestly, in most games you won't be able to reset this very easily. And if you're close enough to the enemy team most of the time to be able to reset this anyways, you might as well pick the Shadow Orb Huntress for more damage with auto attacks and more speed, in my opinion. But all three of these are very good. I would recommend, if you're going with the burst playstyle, to get the armor reduction, of course, and with the melee assassin build, just go the second one. Alright, that was a lot of talking. I'll show you actually one more clip of me getting a perfect combo with Shadow Strike on this dummy to see the damage potential it can do. And after that, yeah, I'll close the video with some with the builds for melee and burst right next to each other with a summary of all the points I discussed. And here we are on the last part of this guide. Now, in summary, you see the two main builds for Maiev displayed on the sides. On the left side you'll see the auto attack Neisha's Memento build with Armored Assault, and on the right side you'll see the W stacking build with the burst damage on 16 with Cruel Chain. The other talents, level 7 and 13, I talked about all the other ones. 7 and 13, just go for the Q talents. They're super reliable, they add more damage to your Q, and they give armor to yourself. Not much to be said. You can fiddle around with the other talents on those tiers, but for 1, 4 and 16, really make sure you do the right thing. Now, in summary, to play Maiev well, the most important part in my opinion is weaving in auto attacks to optimize your damage. And that counts also as resetting your auto attack with your W and weaving auto attacks in between your Qs and E. Of course, once you're in the team fight, make sure to hit your Qs, make sure to hit multiple targets. If you're not entirely sure your Q will hit multiple targets, it's most of the time better to wait until you can actually hit 2 targets at the same time. Because remember, getting more resets is going to give you more damage over time. Also, before going in, make sure to know your escapes. So what I showed is either use your trade wisely to bait out certain CCs or just escape a lot of damage, or use your E, send your spirit in one way, walk the other way, and see which one they will follow. Of course, the middle of the video, performing the right combos. Choose one of the 3, the ARAM combo, the walking up to the mounted combo, or the spiriting into them combo. And then, of course, now you see these builds, make sure to pick the right build for the right situation. And situation, I mean the right map, and of course the right team composition. If you have a team that has no camp clear, just go for the Neisha's Memento build and help your team get those camps. You know, it's that easy. You don't always have to play for the super big balls to the walls plays. And honestly, if you understand those concepts, you'll be good to go. So good luck playing Maiev, and I will see you in the Nexus.